If you told me a year ago that one of the lowest points in my life, losing my home to a tornado, would end in an act of petty cookie theft, I would have laughed. But life has a way of piling on unexpected disasters, one after the other, until you reach a breaking point. It started with the storm. A tornado hit our town out of nowhere. In a matter of minutes, everything we owned was destroyed. The roof ripped off, our walls collapsed, our cars were damaged beyond use. My parents and I stood there, looking at the splintered wreckage, stunned and shivering. I remember the surreal feeling of picking through what was left. Soggy clothes, photo albums that smelled of rain and insulation, broken dishes in the mud. We had nowhere to go. No savings big enough to fix this overnight. FEMA paperwork felt impossible to even start. My brother came to the rescue. He drove all the way from his city without being asked, loaded us into his car, and brought us to his house. It was maybe the kindest thing anyone had ever done for us. He kept saying, "Stay as long as you need. We'll figure it out together." And in those first hours, I believed it. I felt relief and gratitude. We weren't alone. What I didn't know then was that this act of generosity was also the beginning of something we never could have anticipated. Living under the same roof as my sister-in-law and seeing a side of her that would change how we saw her forever. I had adored her for years. We all had. She was always friendly, warm, the kind of person who brought a dish to every gathering and hugged everyone on the way out. But a crisis doesn't always bring out the best in people. Sometimes it reveals exactly who they are when no one's watching. By the end of those 2 months, we were more exhausted from her than we were from the tornado. And our small act of petty revenge, stealing 2 tiny cookies, was the only thing that made us feel human again. The first week, everything was polite. We were careful. We tried not to take up space. My mom and I cleaned up after ourselves. My dad stayed quiet, reading in the corner. But before long, we started noticing the tension. It began with little things, corrections mostly. My sister-in-law would redo the way we'd stacked the dishwasher, then sigh dramatically so we'd notice. She'd remind us, over and over, to keep the counters wiped down, even if we just cleaned them. Then came the rules. She goes to bed at 7 p.m. every night. That was her routine. We respected that. But she expected the rest of the house to basically freeze in time once she turned in. No talking above a whisper. No TV above volume 5. No walking too firmly up the stairs. One night, we were talking softly to my brother in the living room. Nothing loud, just a quiet conversation about insurance paperwork. And she came out in her pajamas, her expression pinched. She told us her pillow was amplifying the sound of our voices. She asked us to please be mindful. We nodded, apologized, and lowered our voices further. But it didn't matter. Every day something else upset her. She didn't like that we kept the scissors in the knife block. She said it was dangerous, though they'd been fine there for days. She didn't like that we put the toaster facing the wrong way on the counter. She didn't like that my dad, an early riser, would sit in the living room at 6 a.m. with his coffee. One morning, my brother gently told him he'd need to stay in the bedroom until she left for work because she needed her quiet morning time. The worst part was how she handled it. She'd never say it outright. She'd either sigh and wait until my brother had to bring it up later, or she'd say it with a bright, brittle smile that made you feel like a trespasser in your own family. It was a minefield. We tried harder. We cleaned more. We cooked every meal. Even on the very first night we arrived shell-shocked and dirty. We did the dishes. We kept to ourselves. We contributed money, almost $1,000 from our disaster donations, because we didn't want to be freeloaders. But it didn't matter. We were always too much, too loud, too present. After a while, my mom started crying every other day. She'd go into the bathroom to get a break, and even that bathroom was a mess. It was the guest bathroom, the one we were assigned to use. The toilet was caked with years of filth, actual gnats buzzing around. My mom, who was cleaning other people's messes even as we struggled with our own, eventually scrubbed it spotless. I remember watching her wiping down that toilet and thinking, if this had happened to them, we would have treated them like royalty. We would have cooked their meals, made their beds, washed every dish with no complaint. We would have felt honored to help. And yet, Every day she acted like we were parasites. The breaking point came one evening when she opened a new package of lemon Pepperidge Farm cookies. She literally asked us if we liked lemon, then ate one in front of us, told us how good it was, and put them away. I didn't care about the cookie itself, but the gesture, taunting us with something special and denying any generosity, felt symbolic. It was the moment I realized I was done walking on eggshells. The idea didn't come to me immediately. It simmered over the next few days as we tried to avoid her. We started staying out late, wandering stores until 9 p.m., sitting in the car, going to friends' houses, just to have a few hours when we didn't feel like we were being watched. My brother was sad, telling us he missed talking to us. But what could we say? We were too stressed to relax. That night, after another long day of cleaning out our wrecked house and arguing with FEMA about claims, we came home exhausted. My sister-in-law was already in bed. The whole house was dark except the little lamp by the kitchen sink. My mom and I tiptoed around, whispering. We barely dared open the fridge in case it made a noise she could feel through her pillow. And then my mom opened the pantry, saw the Pepperidge Farm cookies, and slowly turned to look at me. Her eyes were tired but mischievous. "Should we?" she whispered, voice hoarse from the day. I felt my eyebrows shoot up. "She'll know," I whispered back. "There aren't many in each cup." Mom shrugged, a slow, defiant smile spreading across her face. "What's she going to do?" she said. "Accuse us? Deny it, and then what? She'll sulk? Let her." In that moment, all the pressure, all the humiliation, all the careful pretending not to exist, snapped. We weren't big on revenge. But that night we were. It felt ridiculous to be planning something so small and petty. Two grown women conspiring to steal cookies. But that was exactly why it felt so good. It was the tiniest act of defiance. And for once, it wasn't about survival or paperwork or proving we were grateful enough. It was just about taking back one tiny sliver of dignity. We stood there, whispering like two kids sneaking candy. My mom picked up the package carefully, examining how many cookies were left. She held them like they were priceless artifacts. "There's 8 in here," she said. "If we each take one, she probably won't notice." "She'll notice," I said. "Good," my mom replied. We started to laugh quietly, the kind of laugh that comes from too much stress and not enough sleep. I pressed my hand over my mouth to smother the sound. Mom peeled open the plastic as slowly as she could so it wouldn't crackle. We each pulled out a single lemon cookie. Smelled bright and sweet. We looked at each other, solemn as priests, and clinked them together like a toast. "To not losing our minds," I whispered. "To not letting her win," my mom whispered back. We ate them slowly, savoring every crumb. It was honestly the best thing I'd tasted in weeks. Not because it was a fancy cookie, but because it was ours, even if only in secret. When we finished, Mom carefully closed the package and set it back exactly where she'd found it. She adjusted the stack so it looked untouched. Then she straightened up, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Let's get out of here before I do something else." We tiptoed back to our room, still smothering giggles. Felt silly, felt petty, but it also felt like the only thing we could control in a situation where everything else had been ripped away. As I lay in bed, I thought about how my sister-in-law would react. Would she suspect? Would she say something? Would she unleash another lecture about respect and gratitude? Probably. But I didn't care anymore. For the first time in 2 months, I fell asleep without feeling like a guest in my own family. The next morning, I woke up early. My dad was already awake, sitting quietly in the corner with his coffee. He gave me a small nod. "Rough night?" he asked. I almost told him, but part of me wanted to keep it between my mom and me, a little secret rebellion. So I just smiled and said, "Not really." When my sister-in-law came out of her room, she looked at us the same way she always did. Polite, distant, vaguely annoyed we existed. I wondered if she'd noticed the missing cookies. She didn't say anything. That day, my brother pulled me aside. He looked exhausted. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. She's stressed. "But you guys are my family too." I nodded. "I know," I told him. "We're doing our best." He gave me a hug. For a moment, I felt sorry for him. He was caught in the middle, torn between loyalty to his wife and love for us. None of this was his fault, and he was trying so hard to keep the peace. But the longer we stayed, the more obvious it became that there was no peace to keep. Every day there was something else. The fridge wasn't shut quietly enough. My dad's coffee smelled too strong. My mom's folded laundry didn't meet her standards. So we kept our little secret. The cookies were never mentioned. Maybe she never counted them. Maybe she did and decided to pretend she hadn't. But something shifted in me after that night. I stopped caring quite so much about her approval. I still cooked dinner. I still cleaned. But I stopped feeling like I owed her something more than basic politeness. I stopped apologizing for every footstep. And you know what? She noticed. A week later, she started making passive-aggressive comments at dinner about how some people don't appreciate what they're given. I didn't rise to it. I just smiled blandly and kept eating. After dinner, I heard her complaining to my brother in their bedroom. The walls were thin. "They're ungrateful," she said. "They don't respect me." And for once, my brother didn't immediately agree. He said, "They've been through hell. Maybe you could try a little harder to understand." That was the first time I thought, maybe he sees it too. Eventually, we got one of our cars fixed. We started staying out all day. My brother would text to ask when we were coming home. He'd say he missed us. It made me sad. But there was no way to make everyone happy. In those last couple of weeks, the tension got worse. She was colder than ever. My mom and I were so tired we didn't have energy to fight. But the cookie moment, our tiny act of rebellion, made the rest of it bearable. The day we finally left, my brother hugged each of us for a long time. He didn't say much, but his eyes looked sad. He knew things had changed, and I think he hated that he couldn't fix it. My sister-in-law barely looked at us as we carried our bags to the car. She stood in the doorway, arms folded, lips pressed thin. We thanked them anyway, because even with everything that happened, we were grateful. They gave us shelter when we had nowhere else to go. But as we drove away, I realized gratitude and resentment can live in the same place. You can appreciate someone's help and still feel hurt by how they treated you. A month later, when we'd moved into our new rental house, my mom and I were unpacking the last box. She pulled out a grocery bag with a fresh package of Pepperidge Farm lemon cookies inside. She looked at me, and we both started laughing. "Should we?" she asked, grinning. "Definitely," I said. We opened them right then and there, sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes. We didn't whisper. We didn't tiptoe. We didn't feel like intruders. We each ate a cookie, savoring it the same way we had that night. But this time, it didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like reclaiming something simple, our sense of belonging. Sometimes petty revenge is a grand gesture. Sometimes it's a dramatic confrontation. But sometimes, it's just two people eating someone else's fancy cookies because it's the only thing you can do to feel human again. And if I learned anything from this, it's that no crisis excuses cruelty. The way you treat people when they're vulnerable says everything about who you are. We were never entitled to her snacks or her patience. But we did deserve basic kindness. We didn't get it, so we took 2 cookies. And I don't regret it for a second.